Here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts. Hey, Pete, ever wonder what Steven Spielberg's favorite film is?
You know, Andy, I've heard he loves classics like Lawrence of Arabia, Meet Me in St. Louis.
Imagine chatting with him about why those films resonate with him so much.
That's exactly what we do on our podcast, Movies We Like. We've had incredible guests like actress Dee Wallace, cinematographer Eric Messerschmidt, director Steve Miner, and former Disney animators Tom and Tony Bancroft.
They share their favorite films and the impact they've had on their careers, offering fascinating insights into the craftsmanship and storytelling techniques that make these movies so special.
If you're curious about the magic behind the scenes, subscribe to Movies We Like from True Story FM on your favorite podcast app. New episodes are released on the fourth Monday of each month with early access for our members.
Join us on Movies We Like as we explore the movies we all like with the people who make them.
And Stephen, our people will call your people. Let's make this happen, puppy.
Subscribe today.
Okay, now for the lightning round.
I'm so good at lightning rounds. That's from Friends. It's my favorite show.
20 seconds on the clock starts now. Who is the captain of the USS Enterprise?
Oh, crap. Is it, Captain Stubing? No, Morgan? Crunch?
Next question. Which superhero is Tony Stark?
Stark. Did Game of Thrones have superheroes? I only watched 2 episodes.
What planet were Luke and Leia born on?
Planet Fitness?
Oh, time's up. Sorry. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey everybody, Mandy Kaplan here. Please check out my podcast, Make Me a Nerd, where each week an incredible guest tries to baptize this mainstream mom into the world of sci-fi, fantasy, and all things nerdy. Available wherever you podcast.
That's our show, folks.
Wait, I just thought of it. Padme Amidala gave birth to her twins Luke and Leia on Polis Massa. No, that's dumb. Is it Planet Hollywood?
And welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian bumble their way through the 80s movies we think we love or might have missed, with these are modernized to see how they hold up in this, the real world of 2024. Today we watched Mr. Mom, a movie selection from 1983, about which Google says, during the 1980s recession, automobile engineer Jack, played by Michael Keaton, is fired from his job. When his wife, Carolyn, played by Teri Garr, finds a job before he does, they switch roles, placing him in the unfamiliar position of homemaker and caretaker to their 3 children. He embarks upon a series of misadventures, from navigating grocery store trips to playing poker games with housewives. Jack and Caroline must figure out the intricacies of their new roles while maintaining their relationship.
Thank you.
Meet Dad. He's a real man.
Not a beer? 7 o'clock in the morning. Scotch?
An all-out go-getter. But when his job pulled the plug on him...
I'm fired? You son of a dude!
They threw a switch.
Go, running late. Yeah, okay. Good luck.
And he became the lady of the house. It sure looks like he got a terrific deal.
Honey, if you call and I'm not here, I'll be at the gym or at the gun club.
Exercise. And relaxation. Good home cooking. Arts and crafts.
Kenny! Don't paint your sister!
And fun and games with the neighbors.
Are these any good?
We got 2 pair. We've got plenty.
That's when he was forced to face the bare facts. His new job is a mother. Michael Keaton.
Where's Bobby keep the extra diapers?
And Teri Garr in Mr. Mom, a mother of a comedy.
A mother of a comedy. Love it starting again. All right, Mr. Mom from 1983 is what we're talking about today. But first, who are we? I'm Krissy Lenz, one of the directors of the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And with me is, as always, is...
I'm Nathan Blackwell, independent filmmaker based in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, an award-winning filmmaker of the year. I say it every time because you don't. So, Mr. Mom, is this one that you've seen before? Is this a family favorite?
I mean, I have never seen this movie until today. It
Oh,
was on my radar, like I had seen like the commercials, but no, this is the first time I've seen it.
wow. Okay, this was a household movie at the Stewart
Unbiased
family.
yeah.
We loved this movie. We watched it all the time. It was a classic. I've probably seen it 20 times.
A staple of your childhood.
Yes, very much so. So we have opposite points of view today. I love it. First impressions, go.
Biased versus unbiased?
Yeah.
Okay, so, like concept aside, which is, oh my gosh, the guy is now the mom,
What?
Like,
how can that be?
like honestly, you could even make that movie today. It's not as topical, as women were in the 80s getting jobs and the taking care of the children was being flipped around. It's more about like how do you really make the most out of the concept, So yeah, you could make that today as long as you really squeeze the most fun out of the dilemma,
Well, and I think it wouldn't be so much as the dad. Oh my God, the dad is being a mom. What? It's more like the person who's not used to being the mom is being the mom.
Right, exactly. And you could still make Mr. Mom today. You couldn't cut the same trailer or make the same poster. Again, that wouldn't be as hooky, but you could still make the same movie today. The same goes with 9 to 5 to a degree, but again, yeah, this was a big deal, as women were working full-time jobs, and that kind of the nuclear family was being disrupted a bit.
Right.
But yeah, first of all, let me say it's always a pleasure to watch Michael Keaton and Teri Garr,
Yeah. They are a dynamic duo.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess, okay, so hot take right up front. I felt like this was kind of the TV sitcom version of the concept, though,
Oh, okay.
Like it was a little broad and it was a little less. I get what was surprising is that this was written by John Hughes.
Yep, written by John Hughes, produced by Aaron Spelling.
And you can see, and it doesn't really have much of their DNA in it. There's a couple of moments. But it's still kind of proto John Hughes. Like there's a couple of fun moments, but it's kind of missing in my mind like a connectivity, a deeper truth to some of these situations, or maybe even a little more when I say it, I call it silly, but I still feel like there was fun to be had that we were missing. Some of these scenes are kind of a little stage play-y, and a little like people walking in and out of the rooms, and I felt like there was just something kind of missing. But anyways, we what did you think?
I love this movie. I do. I love it.
Conflict.
Fun fact, Michael Keaton turned down Splash to do this movie. So we just did Splash, and Michael Keaton was like, no, I won't do Splash. I'm doing Mr. Mom.
Which on paper, I totally get.
Yeah.
I think when we talked about Splash, like it was, like on paper, it's a dumb idea, but it was executed well,
Yeah.
It like perfectly lined up. Tom Hanks, Ron Howard, John Candy, like those, the execution lined up and made it fun. But yeah, I just felt like this was, it needed just a little more below the surface, and even with the fun part, like I wanted this, like you want a movie, like a comedy that talks about talks about people and like changing social dynamics to reveal truths in the comedy, and this definitely goes for it. But I felt like I wanted more, like I was starved a bit on that.
Well, I think that if you did make this movie today, that's what you would get. You'd get more of the like deep emotional core.
Well, I'm not
to those moments.
like, I mean, even with, you could have inserted even with the same tone, like even like a couple years later when John Hughes does his own movies, you see that. So I'm not really looking for like the A24 version of this. I just felt like they left, they didn't mind the concept as much as they could. Like, when you see stuff with like Ferris Bueller's or Breakfast Club, like there's a comedy and silliness, but then they're kind of like bringing up something a little deeper in the comedy as well, as they're kind of mining it and excavating it just a bit more. It's still fun. It's still silly, but I felt I wanted more of that with this,
Yeah, I hear you. So what this is a story of Jack, Michael Keaton. We start the movie with him getting ready in the morning. The wife gets his shower ready for him. She gets the children up and dressed. He heads off to his job as an engineer at a car factory. And he is trying to keep the morale of his own employees up. Meanwhile, he and his team all get furloughed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's great to see. It's great to see a young Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, as basically a glorified extra in this.
Yeah, he's got like 2 scenes.
So they get drunk and they come home. The family presents itself nicely, and they have Colonel's chicken for dinner. And she's like, "Oh, this might be the last Colonel chicken we can afford for a while."
Right. The luxury chicken model. Yeah.
Yeah, Colonel chicken. Teri Garr suggests that she gets a job, and Michael Keaton wants to make a bet that it's $1 to his $100 that he gets a job before she does.
Yeah, when I talked about it feeling like a stage production, this is like the moment I had that thought. It's like, we're gonna make a bet, $100, whoever gets a job first, and then it like dissolves. No, you deserve the $100. You won,
Yeah, take the money, Carolyn.
Here you go.
Money.
Just take the money, Carolyn. Yeah.
Yep. So she gives him the rundown of how to run the household, and she heads out. At the drop off, Dad's doing it wrong. South to pick up, moron. Or south to drop off, north to pick up. So the little kids don't have to walk. Yeah,
so this was one of those moments that I was just kind of missing a little John Hughes magic. Like, like I wish the scene was just a little longer and they could have just extracted a bit more. So yeah, he's dropping the kids off the wrong direction and basically gets yelled at by the crossing guard, and then one of the moms gives him like a dirty look. What I would have loved to have seen is, it's like he thinks this is such a simple thing. And then he gets there, and it's like the moms are almost like a street gang, not literally, but just how seriously he has offended the order. That he gets much more shit than he got in this. I'm not saying they literally dress up like a street gang, but they've got that mentality of like, oh my god, he has dipped his toe into another world, and they're not messing around.
Yeah, south the drop off, moron.
Yeah, like someone not. It's like it's like the crossing guard's giving him trouble. The mom behind him is like waving at him. Another person knocks on his window. It's like, what are you doing? And then like, oh hi, so and so little kid, I know you, and then goes back to like grilling him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Teri Garr has a hard time of it too. She's at work. She's calling her new boss Ron, and his secretary is like, "That's Mr. Richardson to you," and she's like, "Well, he said to call him Ron."
Yeah, it's a stereotypical, advertising room where everyone is smoking.
Everyone is smoking. The room is filled with smoke.
Everyone, and then there's fast food and trash all over the place. Everyone is angry and grouchy and cutting each other down. It's interesting because I think John Hughes did work in advertising before screenwriting. So yeah, I mean, it was broad, but it was fun.
Yeah. And she is like cleaning up after everybody. And Ron is like, we have people to do that. And she's like, sorry, force of habit. And she gets laughed at when they're like, we want your fresh opinion. And she's like, well, none of these would make me buy tuna. And they're like laughing at her because she's a noob.
Yeah. And you can see what's going on from this scene like a mile away. Like, okay, they all hate her. Everyone hates the pitches. The boss is already starting to kind of hit on her.
Yeah, so, he's clearly already call me Ron,
Right. Yeah. So you pretty much know exactly what's going to happen at this point.
Yep. Michael Keaton is at the grocery store. He's having a chaotic time. He loses the baby. He has to buy Kotex. He keeps knocking things down, and there's a fun gag where they keep saying over the loudspeaker, Irv, clean up in aisle 5. Irv, clean up in produce. And then at the end, he's like, Irv, we were never even in aisle 5.
Yeah. And as much as I'm like cutting down, the movie, it is always a pleasure. I have to keep bringing this up. Always a pleasure to watch Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Like he makes every scene he's in fun. As does Teri Garr. She's great. So
it's true.
I'll only bring that up one more time after I feel bad about slagging a movie that you love.
Thank you. There's one part that I remember very much is in the supermarket where Joan, who's the very she's a divorcee. Joan and one other mom are divorcees now, and they really want to help out with Michael Keaton. And there's a part where the one mom goes, he's married, and she goes, so were we once.
Yeah,
and that part just really stuck with me.
They both, so both of them have their romantic foils, the people who are out to jump their bones as soon as they have taken their new paths in life.
Yep, Joan and Ron.
Yeah.
And they're 80s. Ron is Martin Mull.
Yeah. And he's always fun. But yeah, he is the sleazy boss who doesn't take a hint.
Yep. The next day, he comes to pick her up in a limo. And Michael Keaton goes and puts on overalls and a tank top, and he comes in with a chainsaw, and he's like, oh, we're just going to add a new audition onto here. We're going to fire that up. And he says, what are you going to do, 220? And he goes, 220, 221, whatever it takes. That's one of my most quotable lines from a movie. Is I'll always just say, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Okay.
If you call and I'm not here, I'm at the gym or the gun club. And she's like, okay, honey. They fly to a meeting. He hits on her and she cuts his steak. And she's just like, can't help being a mom. At home with the kids, Jack is doing laundry. The kids decide to make lunch. Jack makes a laundry concoction. He's like, let's just save some time here. And he puts all the soaps together and like stirs it up and throws it in the laundry machine. And then total chaos ensues as the TV repair person comes. The kids are making chili.
This is where some of the John Hughes DNA starts to pop up again. You know, like you have all these service people just all showing up. It does feel a bit ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
The exterminator comes. The water heater man comes.
Yeah. And it's pretty exaggerated. But it's nice how these, you know, like, again, this is where the John Hughes part kind of comes up, to where they, you know, they go from kind of antagonists to then at the end of the movie that they're kind of like characters now in the, you know, in the village, you know, they show up and then they have some degree of loyalty now to Michael Keaton and help him kind of like through the crucible of the ending, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was fun. But at this point, like, I felt like it was just so, again, I was like hoping for little rings of truth. And instead the movie kept swinging these really broad strokes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if John Hughes entirely knew. It seems like some of these beats were still a theoretical approach of what it would be like to raise these kids, you know, as a dad who has no experience in it, you know, rather than little rings of truth of it, you know, like they were still kind of broad swings.
Mm-hmm. The vacuum cleaner is called Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
And it chases Kenny and his whoopee all around the house. He's got a security blanket that he calls a whoopee, and the vacuum cleaner tries to eat it.
And okay, so I guess getting to Mr. You know, so getting to the Mr. Whoopi stuff, like, you know, so Michael Keaton eventually, like in his progression as a better dad, is there trying to talk the kid out of separating from Mr. Whoopi, you know, his security blanket. And I feel like that's such and the movie treats it as the right move. And I feel like it's such a male oriented, oh, this is a problem, I have to fix the problem. Like, to me, it felt like, no, just the kids will like, what are your feelings on the security? Like, I feel like the kids are going to outgrow it on their own time. Like, you can't make them move on from their security blanket. You know, you can't lock it up and convince them through an argument, give up your security blanket, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, but I think that it's it's earned through the plot of the movie. Like, when he's at first, he's like, come on, you got to get rid of it. You got to man up, Kenny. And Kenny's like, no. And then he's like, look, it's all ruined. We got to get rid of it. And he's like, no. And then he's finally like, look, and then he's like, I can give up my security blanket, flannel shirt. Can you give up your security blanket? No. And then finally, like, they come to a point of connection, Kenny and Dad. And he's like, can we give up the whoopee? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it just felt, again, like, like it didn't ring like the right move to me, you know?
Okay.
But maybe I'm biased.
Maybe.
I'm not saying that I had some security blanket as a young child, but I'm not saying I'm not.
But you're not saying you didn't.
Right.
You're not saying you didn't and still have a whoopee.
I am not saying that I still have a whoopee.
Yeah. So they go to the corporate Olympics at the family picnic for Teri Garr's company. And Jack decides to participate in this obstacle course, and everyone's like, you can't win, you can't beat the boss. And he's like, well, I don't work for him. And they're like, but your wife does. Duh, buddy. So it's glorious. I love this obstacle course where it's like they're running in flip-flops, they're diving through like a kid's jungle gym, they're riding on tricycles, they're doing all this funny stuff, and like Jack is totally winning even though everyone's trying to grab him and grab his ankles and like
keep him from making a big mistake.
Keep him from making a big mistake and winning the whole thing. When finally he comes around the corner and he sees his wife standing there just like glaring at him, and he decides to take a fall and throw the race. After this, he sort of gets settled into a routine. He sort of slips into a dull routine where he's just like going through the motions. He's watching soap operas. He's drinking beer during the day. He's ironing grilled cheeses. He's playing poker for coupons with the other moms. He's growing a beard. He's wearing the same flannel every day for a week. And Teri Garr comes home and she's pissed. And she's like, what the hell? The kids are eating pizza again. The house is a mess. You've been wearing that same flannel for 4 days. And he's like, oh, yeah, just tell me all the things I'm doing wrong. And she's like, well, when's the last time you did this, this, and this? And you gained weight. And he's like, oh, well, I've gained a few pounds. So what? He has an elaborate fantasy about Joan and Caroline fighting over him and shooting him.
Yeah, this was so he was watching a bunch of
soap operas.
Yeah, daytime soaps, which was fun,
Yeah.
And then he has what we learn later is a dream sequence of the daytime soaps. I kind of wish that it was shot a little more like a daytime soap. They're still kind of shooting it the way that the rest of the movie looks, but it eventually reveals itself to be a dream sequence,
right?
Which is
a fantasy.
A lot of fun. Yes. Yeah.
Everyone's like looking over his body. He has to scooch himself into the tape. And so he cancels poker, and then there's a montage of he gets it together, right? Getting strong now, won't be long now. It's like a Rocky song.
Yeah, it's a Rocky montage. There's even a Rocky poster in one of the kids' rooms. Yeah. So super topical at the time.
Yeah. He's like, but it's a montage. It's super fun. He's cooking a special dinner. But Teri Garr doesn't come home. She gets home late and misses the special dinner. At work, she is pitching for Schooner Tuna, the tuna with a heart. She pitches that they should take 50 cents off their pricing while it's a bad economy, and that Teri Garr believes that will get housewives to be loyal to Schooner Tuna.
Right. So what we're kind of presented is that classic trope of, all our pitches has failed. What do you got, Missy, new person? I'm the grouchy client. I'm folding my arms. Tell me, impress me, And then she, of course, has the pitch with some unique, well, this is what house moms really want to know. And then they go, oh my God, you're absolutely right. You've got the job.
You've got Moxie, kid.
Uh-huh.
But I love that part. I love it. It's great. She's got Moxie, kid. She's got this great idea. Schooner Tuna, the tuna with a heart.
So much Moxie.
It's Halloween. They have a big fight because she's gonna miss Halloween, and it's like Michael Keaton is like, "How many more Halloweens do we have left before they give up on this?" And she's like, "Well, I think we have plenty. Just relax."
Right.
And he gives her that classic line, "Even when you're here, you're not here."
Yeah. They couldn't be more on the nose in terms of the role reversal, and And the mom, it's like, well, this is our job. This is my job. This is what I have to do.
Yeah, and he's like, what about our kids? They're growing up so fast. You're missing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a little strong-armed to me, like it was so on the nose, but yeah.
Okay. So the next day he's supposed to go to work, and the babysitter shows up, and she's like a punk rock girl, and he just closes the door in her face and takes the kids to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Tambor is his old boss, and he's trying to do some sneaky shit. Like, he's like, oh, you've got to tell him how I covered for you. The other guys were already in here, and they already said how I covered for you. And he's like, what? You didn't cover for us. We covered for you. What are you talking about? We were doing our best. We were doing a good job. We had a good thing going. And so he punches him in the face. And then they go into the bathroom. And chaos ensues because the little kids are playing in the toilet paper, and he's holding the baby up to the.
He basically had the moment until the bathroom was trashed. I think this movie does have the problem of like, I'm going to solve the disagreement by punching you at the end, and I think it does it about 3 times.
Yeah, it does. It's a punch to save the day.
Right. Yeah. At this point, there wasn't a lot of like legal awareness of how bad of an idea that was. Like, if you're in the right, it's okay to punch the person at the end. Which is great advice, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. Don't punch in the face.
I'll try it today.
Yeah. Just when you don't get your way. Pop right in the nose. What do you mean you won't watch my film? Punch right in the nose. Kablooey. Okay. So they're at the commercial shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And Teri Garr's like, oh, I don't want to have dinner with you, Ron. I'm just going to go right back to my room and soak in the tub and go to sleep. And he's like, oh, that sounds great. Yeah. Meanwhile, the girls take Jack out to a fancy dinner and to a strip show where there's like space alien, spacemen, male strippers.
Right. Which was fun.
Mm-hmm. So he gets home. The kids want to call mommy. She's having a milkshake in the tub. Ron answers the phone and basically hangs up on Jack.
Yeah, that was dumb. Like, you don't sneak into someone's hotel room and then you answer their own phone. That was like, that felt not only dumb for the character, but dumb for the movie, Like, yeah. Okay, now we're just really kind of turning the screws as much as possible. This is sometimes the kind of like wincing, like, oh, it's gonna appear like both are caught in an affair, but they're not actually having an affair, and it can be a little overwrought and annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the friend who was babysitting the kids tells Joan that he caught her cheating.
Right.
So now Joan is like, this is my chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a he said, she said, and so then both of their sexual stalkers are now making their moves at this point, and so they're supposed to each catch each other, but yet it was just a misunderstanding, and that we really love each other, and
yeah. So, but Dad's making some minor changes around the house. This part always I thought was so funny. He's like painting the house. He's ordered a whole new bedroom set from Sears.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely redone their bedroom. It's like the next day.
Right. I hope she liked this color because I've repainted the house.
Yeah. The repair people are all there again because he put his shoe through the TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the exterminator just always comes at the most inopportune time. So they're all there. And Joan comes over with booze. She's got like a whole bottle of Jack Daniels.
Right.
And he's in the shower. And he's like doing all the reasons A through Z why he shouldn't have an affair with Joan. And he's just steaming up the mirror in there.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Joan's just laying on the bed with the Jack Daniels, like, I love what you've done with the place. And he's like, thanks. It's amazing what you could do with the Sears card.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I did it in one day.
Did it in one. It's not even the end of the day. He did it in the morning.
I did it in an 80s montage.
Yep. Caroline comes home and she's like, what are you doing in my bedroom, Joan? This is my bedroom, isn't it? And she's like, I'll get out of here. I'll let you guys figure things out. Jeffrey Tambor shows up. He wants Jack back. Jack punches him again.
Solving his problem.
Mm-hmm. Ron comes and he's like, we need you back. The client won't do the thing without you. And she's like, I punched him in the face because he was hitting on me. And they're all fighting over them. And there's a fun part where he has the TV repairman and the exterminator sort of be his negotiating partners.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what do you think? They want to give me my job back in a company car. And he's like, yeah, do it. Take it. And they're like, I don't know. I think they should. I don't make a move without Christopher Lloyd and the other guy. And they're like, he doesn't make a move without Christopher Lloyd and the other guy. They're like having this fun little back and forth exchange. And Jeffrey Tambor's like, yeah, whatever it takes. You got to come back. And then Caroline and Jack are sort of just snuggling with the kids as all the chaos ensues and everybody else works out the details of them getting their jobs back. And the movie ends with the tuna commercial playing. Schooner Tuna, the tuna with a heart.
Okay, this is. I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to kind of sprinkle in a few insights of what it takes to shoot a commercial. You know? Okay,
please help us.
These are really more fun facts than corrections.
Okay.
So they say I just convinced him to do an $11 million campaign or commercial, and that obviously looked like a budget commercial. You know,
it's just him in front of a gray, of a gray backdrop.
Yeah, usually. So that's probably the whole campaign. Like, you know, at most. There was no way that commercial even cost like $1 million. A lot of that, you know, let's say if the client is going to set aside that money for multiple commercials, it'll be like a whole campaign. So, you know, even if they're just doing one commercial, they'll spend 4 or 5 times as much just paying for the advertising time on like YouTube or, you know, TV than they will to make the commercial. So if they make like a $100,000 commercial, they're actually spending $700,000, you know, in total for getting it out there. But I thought it was funny that and this is obviously for the movie audience, like the guy who's running Slate who says what schooner tuna commercial, take 35 or whatever, like that, you know. It's like, yeah, okay, the audience needs, you know, it's like you wouldn't slate it like that. You wouldn't necessarily need to say the name of the commercial beforehand, but it's for us to kind of know what it is.
Right.
And you know, they're having trouble directing the CEOs, you know, like he's messing up all the time, and that's totally real. Like I find it so fascinating. Like, you know, like on a corporate video or doing like a, you know, something. I did a commercial with the governor and the mayor. And it's really interesting because they, like CEOs or people like that, are like the kings of their castles. And suddenly you put them out of that space and you put them that they have to act now on camera. And they are so off-footed. They are so like suddenly that confidence that they had, suddenly they're sweating and double checking, and it's interesting. That is something that happens to where they're so used to being in charge and basically like the king of their universe, and now you put them in front of a camera, and a lot of that confidence just flies out the window.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
that's good insight.
Fun facts with Nathan.
Fun facts with Nathan Blackwell, award-winning filmmaker. Let's see. Chevy Chase, Michael Douglas, Steve Martin, and John Travolta were all considered to play Jack Butler. What do you think about any of those?
Yeah, all of them would have been fun, but yeah, it's there's a goofy imp like charm that Michael Douglas brings to it. So I'm definitely happy with what happened.
Yeah, I think that Chevy Chase and Steve Martin would have been too silly.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. It's interesting that, it's like he turned down Splash to do this. I looked at the box office and they basically made the same amount of money, both of them. So it was really more kind of a horizontal move, Mr. Mom did pretty darn well. It's in the top 10 of that year, 1983.
Yeah, it was great. Let's see. Here's who was considered to be Caroline: Karen Allen, Jane Curtin, Farrah Fawcett, and Sally Field.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't affect me in any way. I'm glad it was Teri Garr.
Yeah, exactly.
And then apparently this was supposed to be, Aaron Spelling wanted this to be a backdoor pilot for a TV series.
Well, again, I think I said that before. It kind of feels like a TV series vibe. Like the energy feels kind of in line for something like that. It's like, have you ever watched it kind of, like another movie that kind of felt like that was Zombieland. Like they tried to make it as a TV show.
Right.
And the movie itself kind of feels like a 2-hour double TV episode, like the way they set up everything. They don't really conclude anything, Yeah, so that doesn't surprise me. So let me ask you this. So how, so this was a staple of you growing up. How did this movie feel rewatching it? I mean, did your kids also grow up watching this too?
Yes, they watched it, and they sort of they like it. They think it's funny. They get the jokes, but they don't really get why he's having such a hard time. Like they don't get why he's so dumb. Like they're willing to accept that he is so dumb and is a babe in the woods and a fish out of water and doesn't know what he's doing, but they don't really understand why, that it's inherently just because he's a man and men don't do this work. That's why he's so bad at it. So they'll ask questions several times like, why doesn't he know how to go to the grocery store, Mom? Oh, because he's never been in a grocery store before. Why?
Because men were forbidden.
Yes. So they sort of don't get that part. But they like the movie and think it's a funny movie.
Okay, cool. What are your thoughts returning to it? What was the last time you'd seen it?
It's probably been a few years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I bring this movie up when it's like, oh, let's watch an old movie together. I think I'll always throw Mr. Mom out there for consideration. So it's been a couple years, but the kids had already seen it. I enjoy it. I think it's funny. I think it's cute. I love watching Michael Keaton, and I think that the movie holds up as a time capsule of 1983.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily agree that you could make it today and have it be as fun, because
you couldn't take the same script,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, you would have to find just a little bit of a twist to it, just to make it a little more interesting.
It couldn't just be the woman does this job, the man does this job.
Yeah, you definitely have to find a little. I think this movie reminded me of when we were talking about Three Men and a Baby.
Yeah.
And I was trying to come up with like a deep thought. It's like I wish this was just a little more sure-footed, like Three Men and a Baby. And then I re-listened to our when we voted on like how many babies we would give this. And I really didn't apparently like Three Men and a Baby that much.
I love Three Men and a Baby.
Yeah, well, I look upon it, I remember it fondly, but for whatever reason, when we reviewed it, I was not very kind to it. But that's another way of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Three bachelors who have no idea how to raise a baby are raising a baby. So that is a kind of direct, you can kind of move in that direction. I think in that conversation, we talked about like, what if like someone in their 20s had to take care of three kids,
Right.
Like what if it was like someone who had to take care of their brother's kids because they got arrested or whatever, and they were being kind of Mr. Mom, and they were like, I don't even know how to be an adult, let alone a parent,
Right.
So that is a direction you could take it in,
Yeah, except for that, I think that could have the opposite is true, because like there's so much of what Michael Keaton brings to this, which is like, I'm an adult, I should be able to figure this out. I'm a man, I should be able to figure this out. There's got to be a man way to do this,
I here's what you could do. So it's Dr. Strange having to raise three kids. So he's great at what he does. He's a surgeon. He's a master of magic. He saved several Marvel movies, but now he's got to raise these kids. He's got no idea how to do it. I'm a wizard, damn it. I should be able to figure this out.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'd buy that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd buy that for $1.
Movies cost a lot more these days.
It's true. They cost a lot more than $1. Okay, so on a scale of one manly chainsaw, or no, let's say on a scale of 1 can of schooner tuna, the tuna with a heart, to 10 cans of schooner tuna, how many cans of schooner tuna do you give Mr. Mom? I have a feeling you're going to be as unkind to this movie as you were to 3 Men and a Baby.
So I was. You are not incorrect. So again, there's, as aforementioned, I really enjoy watching Michael Keaton. I really enjoyed watching Teri Garr. And in my recollection, I had liked Three Men and a Baby a little more in my mind and gave that a 5.0. I feel like I've got
so harsh.
Yeah. So I feel like I've got to give, because I think I didn't like this as much as that movie, so I have to by then just mathematics give it a 4.5 of schooner tunas.
Ouch.
But I also recognize that there's a lot of moments that if you put this movie on the background, I would watch again, and it's enjoyable.
It is.
And then maybe also I'm giving it a harsher sentence because I kind of like making this kind of comedy, which is like something fun and silly, but is revealing something about us, and then maybe also the standards that I'm hoping John Hughes is hitting, and I felt like was missing. Like I feel like, like there was more potential in it than what I felt. So maybe I'm being a little harsher in regards to that, like maybe I would have given this like a 6 otherwise. But
I think so. I think that you're being extra harsh. I give this a 7.5. 7.5 cans of schooner tuna.
I did pause it a couple of times to see how much was left, and that's kind of a tough.
Oh no! You really did? At what parts?
37 minutes in.
Oh no!
How much is left? Yeah, at that point, it felt like it kind of had laid out all of its cards, and you can kind of see how everything was going to end up, which was more or less true, But
I'm
yeah,
willing to hear that feedback, but
Uh-huh.
I just think there's more fun to be had.
Look, I don't lose respect for you because you enjoy this.
Good.
I'm just critiquing it based on my experience watching it.
Okay. All right.
So I'm really just observing my own reaction to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's fair in terms of like saying that like it does it hold up? No, not really. It doesn't hold up. It only holds up as a time capsule, I think.
Yes. And that is fun.
Yeah. Okay. So what about a deep cut recommendation?
3 Men and a Baby. No.
3 Men and a Baby.
I was considering 3 Men and a Baby. It's like, I felt like this did a better job of it, but no, not entirely. It's tough. I don't think I'm gonna go the route of it's like, here's a better John Hughes movie. Here's what I wish it would have done, or like, here's a better Michael Keaton movie. But I feel like if you kind of dug Mr. Mom and you dug the kind of role reversal, or oh my god, how do I, like, the fish out of water parent story, like, and this is not so much of a deep cut because we've reviewed it before, but I felt like Overboard was a lot of fun.
Overboard.
I still have, of all these movies, it's the most problematic. I have kidnapped an amnesia victim, but gosh darn it, Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn, so charming, and I felt like, again, like it's like, I don't know how to be a parent. I'm trying to be a parent, but it's someone who was wealthy and rich and having to slum it with these, in a poor environment with these rowdy kids. I felt like that was, that you can get a lot of fun and juice out of making that a double feature of. You can call the double feature, gosh, I really just don't know how to parent.
Yeah. I'm bad at parenting. Help me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, I love it. That's great.
What do you have?
Okay, I went with a different Michael Keaton movie.
Okay, good.
A lesser known movie that came out 1 year later in 1984 called Johnny Dangerously.
Oh, okay. Like you could. No, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I was going to say, like, have you seen Johnny Dangerously?
I haven't, but I've seen some clips of it, and it does look fun. I was going to say, like, if you really wanted to make a double feature of Michael Keaton movies that are awkwardly maybe don't hold up, you could do Mr. Mom and Gung Ho.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm recommending Johnny Dangerously. I don't know if it holds up because I haven't seen it in a million years, but I thought it was really funny when I was a kid. It's like a throwback, almost noir-ish gangster movie.
Right.
Where
sort of like
Johnny,
it's a mobster comedy.
Yeah, it's a mobster comedy, exactly. So I'm recommending it even though I don't know if it holds up.
Look, guys, what do you want? The podcast is free, okay?
Yeah, exactly. It's supposedly it's on HBO Max right now, so maybe we should watch it and do that one next.
All right.
No, next we're doing 9 to 5.
Ooh, okay. We do have a double feature here. Okay, yeah, that's exciting.
We do.
All right, guys.
Well, tell everybody, Nathan, where they can watch your movie and how they can best support your movie.
So I have an independent film that's now on Amazon and Apple. You do have to rent it, and it's not available for free, but that's okay. The money helps support the filmmakers. Support those filmmakers. It's called The Last Movie Ever Made. It is a comedy about the end of the world, and the main characters decide to make their last big act, shooting a sci-fi short film. It's available, and if you do check it out, let us know. You can leave a review on Amazon or on Letterboxd. That'd be great. So
yeah.
And where can people see more of you?
Oh, well, if they want to see me in real life doing some comedy, they can come to the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona. We have shows every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. You can find out about showtimes and tickets at nctphoenix.com. That's N for neighborhood, C for comedy, T for theater, Phoenix all spelled out.com. You can also listen to me if you want to listen to more of me on the Gank That Drank, a supernatural drinking game podcast, also on True Story FM or wherever the finest drinking game podcasts are downloaded. Thank you for staying to the end and listening to us. If you're still here, you might want a little bit more Nathan and Krissy banter. And guess what? You can get that. Just become a member of the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast at truestory.fm. You get every episode a week early. If we ever start doing ads, you won't get them. You'll get it ad free. You get some extra fun banter with Nathan and Krissy at the end of the podcast, and you get access to the Discord channel, where you can interact with not only the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast, but all the other podcasts in the True Story FM pantheon of podcasts.
Yeah, it's great to be part of such a cool family.
Yes, it is. So consider that. And also, just like rate, subscribe, review, thumbs up, all those things that help podcasts. They help us too. And we appreciate it. And so when you're out there in the world, keep the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and
party on, dudes.
What's up, dudes? It's your totally tubular friends, Nathan Blackwell and Krissy Lenz, here for the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast, here to urge you to become a sustaining member of the pod.
For just a few bucks a month, you can support the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast and get all kinds of rad perks and stuff in the mix.
Yeah, like for example, you get each episode a week early, as though you have your own personal DeLorean into the future.
Plus, you get special bonus content at the end of every episode.
And you want more of that sweet, sweet Nathan and Krissy banter.
Plus, you get access to the TrueStory.fm discussion board on Discord, so you can join the conversation there too.
So head up to TrueStory.fm today, click on our show page, and sign up to become a member today. Party on, dudes!